We are joined today by a woman who has what I think must be one of the most rewarding and beneficial jobs ever. We are joined by Marina Wood, who is the prevention coordinator for the House of Ruth. That was really a lot to say, but I got it out. And Marina, welcome to the show. You know, I've lived in the Inland Valley area for a long time and have heard about House of Ruth over and over and over, and have kind of a general idea of what you do. But give us a little history and background. What is the House of Ruth?
Sure. Well, the House of Ruth began in 1977 by two Claremont Graduate School students. Kathleen Hoffiller is the name that we always throw out there. They were basically deciding, let's start a hotline and see what women in this community need. And what they found out was that the hotline was filled with women who needed a safe place to stay because their partners were hurting them.
Was this part of their, they'd already graduated, or is this part of their coursework?
They were psychology students. I don't know if it was they were getting credit in any way, but this kind of the battered women's movement in the 70s all kind of started this way. We just realized women need somewhere safe to go, and so the next year they became a nonprofit and they opened their first shelter. And the first day we opened it, it was filled.
Wow, wow. So when you say filled, is this just for battered women or children, or, you know, my teenage daughter picks on me all the time. Am I a candidate?
No.
No.
In order to get into shelter, you do have to be a woman, a battered woman, and you can bring your children. We actually have a capacity to hold up to 7 children with each woman. And you have to be in danger. So if there was a battered woman that is in a bad situation, but she's not in danger, then she can come and access our outreach services, case management, counseling, support groups, classes on domestic violence and healthy relationships. If they're in danger, then they would be able to access our shelter.
Okay, so if they can show there's imminent danger to their and or their kids' health and welfare, then you have a place to put them.
Right.
So when they come there, what happens? How long do they stay? How do you, because I know one of the issues for a lot of battered women is, you know, how do I support myself? What do I do? How do I take care of myself? And there's all these questions that often keep them locked in a bad relationship. Yeah. How do you move them through that process?
Well, it depends on which shelter. So we do have the emergency shelter is for up to 45 days. That's basically to kind of just get them safe and then hopefully back out there. In the meantime, we do provide counseling, classes, life skills classes, so they learn how to write a resume, how to apply for jobs, how to balance a checkbook. Unfortunately, a lot of the women who come in, because domestic violence is about power and control, the batterer hasn't allowed them to work, hasn't allowed them to build these skills. So we try to give them the skills to get back out there. If they're able to meet their goals and they're ready to be independent, but they're just not able to yet, then they're a candidate for our transitional program, which is for up to 2 years.
Nice. And during that time, you continue to coach? Because for a lot of these women, I'm guessing, a big part of it is just a confidence issue. Learning the skills that you need and reversing some of the psychological damage that's been done and feeling good about yourself and getting that job. So tell me, when someone comes in and their life is in danger, they are the kids, and they get that emergency, and they're really eager to try to get control of their life back, and then they go into transitional. Tell me about what emerges on the other end.
Well, we want to see them going to school, we want to see them working. If they're working, then they give us 1/3 of their paycheck so that when they leave, they're able to pay a first and last.
So you give them that money back?
Yes.
Awesome.
All of our services are completely free, and we just want to see, we're about empowerment. We want to see them moving forward and independently and safely, but we want them to do it themselves. So we provide the tools, the options, the resources, but they really have to want to do that. So if a woman's not ready to leave, we don't recommend she comes to shelter, because once she knows where it is, it's because it's confidential, she can't come back to our shelter again.
Got it. So if you're serious, come in there. But what a great program, and that makes so much sense. They carve out a portion of their pay so they get used to paying for expenses, which we all obviously have to do. But then when they're ready to move out, because for a lot of people, even non-battered people, young people, getting that first and last together, it can be difficult. And so you've built in a manner to help them with that.
Right.
Now, you haven't been there too terribly long, working there. Tell us, because you've got an interesting history that brought you there.
Sure. Well, I've been at House of Ruth. It's basically my 1-year anniversary, but I've been doing this type of work since I was in college. So I did women and gender studies. And I think what finally brought me to House of Ruth is when I was a teenager, my mom was a volunteer. So back in those days, the hotline was taken by people on their landlines at home. Now it's done in the shelter, but my mom used to have the hotline calls, so we weren't allowed on the phone and things like that. It's always kind of been a part of my life, and I've always had a passion for trying to get women safe and empowered and things like that.
And what is your role there within all of this?
Well, my role is I get the fun job. I get to go out in the community and teach young people. I talk to kids about bullying. I talk to teens about dating violence and healthy relationships, and adults about domestic violence and how to help. So I get to do the education portion, and I also run the volunteer program. So I educate the volunteers, train them, and supervise them.
So what is a standard definition of domestic violence?
Domestic violence, every time I talk about it, I let people know it's about power and control. So domestic violence is when one person, one partner in the relationship has all the power and control over the other partner.
Does that always include physical abuse or no?
It does not. There's a lot of types of abuse. You don't have to use physical abuse to control someone, but for some people it's easier. For some people it escalates to that point. You can control someone just with stalking them. You can control someone just by manipulating them, blackmailing them. Usually they'll use one type of abuse, and then once the target kind of gets a hint of what's going on, then they'll switch over to a different type of abuse. So it's more tricky, but they'll maintain that power and control.
For someone that thinks they may be in a bad situation, that maybe isn't great but isn't horrible yet, are there warning signs? And if they see these signs, are there things that they can do?
Yes. I mean, again, it's about power and control. So if you notice, the way it usually manifests in the beginning of a relationship is there's a cycle of violence, right? So there's honeymoon phase, tension building phase, that's the fighting and the trying to control, and then there's the explosion phase. That's when you're going to have the sexual abuse, the physical abuse, the emotional abuse. The honeymoon phase in a domestic violence relationship is usually very extreme. There's complete enmeshment in the beginning. They want to be together all the time, and you kind of lose the rest of your life. That's part of isolating the victim. And then in the tension building phase, that's when you kind of see the extreme and unreasonable jealousy, using the jealousy to control someone. Well, I don't like when you talk to your friends. I don't know why you need to be with your family. Why do you need to wear that? I love you so much. So when they're using jealousy to control you, then you're looking at power and control.
So when you realize that you may be in one of these cycles, is the only answer leave, or could there be other, psychological options?
It's a good question. In a healthy relationship, you're going to go from honeymoon to tension building and back to honeymoon, right? You're going to be able to resolve the problem. In an abusive relationship, if you get to the explosion phase, then you're looking at an abusive person. If it's an abusive person, there's about a 3% chance they can change. And in that 3%, they have to know there's a problem, want to change, and try really, really hard to change. So we don't recommend that people try to go to couples counseling or anything like that.
What if you're still in the tension phase?
If you're in the tension building phase, then you just want to learn how to have assertive and effective and safe, healthy communication to try to get back.
All right, so if you're in that tension phase, you actually offer some services there, and we're going to talk about those services when we come back. You have a wide range of services for a variety of needs. So the best part of this conversation is yet to come. Don't go away. You are watching or listening to Ron Stark, The Voice, coming to you from the beautiful KVCR studios on the campus of San Bernardino Valley College. And we are joined by Marina Wood, who is the prevention coordinator for the House of Ruth. And Marina, in the last segment, you gave us kind of the really cool history about how it got started by two Claremont graduate college students. And it's grown and evolved over the years. You're more than just a place where battered women can go and stay. You offer a range of services. And for those listening that might want to know more about those services, share some of them with us.
Sure. So most of our clients actually don't access our shelter. Like I said, that's really for an emergency situation. Most people either are still in the relationship, just got out of it and need to kind of heal. They would access our outreach services. At outreach, they kind of are going to start with case management. They might end up in counseling. We have individual counseling and support groups. We have a range of classes. We have life skills, domestic violence 101, how to avoid dating a jerk or jerkette, and ready for love. So, and we're in between parenting classes, but we're supposed to get parenting class back as well. Along with that, let's see, we have my program, prevention and volunteering. And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, chat is kind of a big program for us. Chat is for our child abuse. It's kind of child abuse or childhood trauma. We have counseling for children, whether it's domestic violence related or not, as long as they're under 18.
So the mother or the parent would bring the child in where they could meet with someone and talk about whatever it is that's been traumatic in their life.
Exactly. So a lot of times it's our women that are in the shelter or that are in services, then they'll bring their children to chat. But sometimes it's just kids in the community that have unrelated problems, and we also provide that.
Well, you know, and that makes me think, because this tends to be a generational cycle. So as bad as it is on the abused woman, I'm thinking it's got to take a toll on the kids as well. And it could be a lifetime toll.
You're exactly right. That's why in our shelter we have a children's program. We do consider children to be primary clients as well. So we also do group with them. We have curriculums we do with them. We try to do healing art with them, and obviously trauma counseling as well. And we know that unfortunately if the boy grew up in a battered home, then he's more likely to be an abuser, so we really want to get that prevention and early intervention.
Yeah, because really it's about breaking the cycle. And to the degree that you can do that, you know, makes it a better place for everyone. So if a woman is watching and she feels she's not in the best of relationship and just doesn't know what to do next, she could call you and get anything from a referral to possibly, if it's life-threatening, a place to stay.
Exactly.
How would they get a hold of you?
The best thing they could do is call our hotline, 1-877-988-5559. They can call to vent, chat, get advice. We'll listen. Usually when everyone that calls, we'll give 3 resources. So if they call and they might have several problems, they might need legal advice, they might need a restraining order, they might need to talk about CalWorks, they might need to figure out what to do with custody. We'll give them at least 3 referrals for every single problem. If it is a problem where they need counseling but they're looking for something more along the lines of healing or mending the relationship, we'll refer them to a different counseling agency because we don't allow batterers on our premises at all for safety and confidentiality reasons.
But what's nice is, and I think important that women understand, is you don't have to be strictly a battered woman to make the call. If you're in a relationship that is starting to feel uncomfortable for you and your kids, it doesn't hurt. Pick up the phone and find out what resources are available.
Yeah, and we can just have a talk about what's healthy and what's unhealthy, if it's looking like power and control or if it's just sounding like it's an unhealthy relationship. And people call us from all over. We have counselors call us, people from Children and Family Services. People just have questions, anyone can call. A lot of times it's the victim's mother, she just wants to talk to us, doesn't know what to do. We give advice on how to help someone who's been hurt as well.
So if someone makes that call, take me through the process. A woman calls and the relationship is starting to get verbally abusive and kind of tough in other ways. No physical violence yet, but kind of wondering if that's not around the corner. They make that phone call, what happens?
Well, we'll kind of talk with them. We assess kind of what the issues are. And what we do with almost everyone that calls our hotline or any person that walks in, we do what's called a safety plan. So we'll talk to them about their safety. If you're getting in an argument, are you in a room that has weapons in it? Are you in a room that has an escape route? Do you have a code word with a friend if someone needed to call you? What if they were to strand you somewhere and you didn't have a phone number? Do you have a phone number memorized? You know, just thinking about keeping them as safe as possible under the circumstances. We know a lot of the women that come in, they're still in that unsafe relationship, and we're trying to keep them as safe as possible. We don't tell them to leave. We let them empower themselves and make those decisions on their own.
Awesome. Now, we're almost out of time. You have a big event that you do every year in the April-May timeframe.
Right. So we have our annual gala, and basically what happens is it's basically for donations. We have a big silent auction, we have a survivor that's gone through our services, talk about it, and we have dinner, and it's just a really fun time.
And if they want information on that, they can visit your website.
They can look at our website, or they can call our hotline actually and ask to speak with the Director of Development. So our hotline again is 877-988-5559. And that goes as well if they're interested in presentations on bullying, teen dating violence, or if they're interested in volunteering, they can call our hotline and they'll direct you to where you need to go.
So you guys will do outreach and do presentations as well. What are some of the presentation topics?
Sure.
And you'll do them, I'm guessing, for schools or civic organizations or whatever.
Yeah, I'll talk to anybody. So that's actually my job. I talk to Rotary clubs, churches, I'll talk to organizations. Normally what I do on the day-to-day is talk to teens about healthy relationships and dating violence, and then children about bullying and how to get help.
You know, I like that. Starting, again, you know, breaking the cycle. So I'm guessing you'll go out to a school and you'll do a presentation for teens who are presumably just starting their whole relationship thing. And what are some of the things you say to them?
Well, I'll tell them warning signs. I'll tell them the types of abuse. I'll teach them about the cycle of violence, explain why victims stay, because it's not just about getting them safe and in healthy relationships. It's also about them learning how to not blame victims, learning how to support other people, because a lot of times what happens is silence and isolation. If the victim feels like people are going to blame her, shame her, she's never going to speak out. And we really need to work towards being in a community where it's safe to say what's happening to you so you can seek that help.
And for a lot of these kids, you know, especially I'm going to guess the young ladies, they may not have enough experience to recognize what you refer to as a jerk or a jerkette. So you're giving them some really valuable info. So as they start this all new process of relationships, early on they can go, you know what, you're a jerk and I don't need you.
Exactly.
And know what to escape from.
Yeah, and you know, to be clear, our services are for men as well. It's just the shelter that's for women and children. But yeah, we try to tell girls and boys, if somebody is trying to control you, it's not a healthy partner. A healthy relationship should have equality at the center.
So, well, I'm guessing it doesn't happen as often. I'm sure there are cases where the man is in an abusive and controlled relationship.
Definitely, and usually if the woman is the batterer, she'll use different tactics, not necessarily physical. A lot of times it's economic abuse, making him buy her things, destroying property, emotional manipulation, things like that.
Wow. All right, one more time the phone number for someone who wants information.
If you want more information, call 1-877-988-5559.
All right, Marina, thank you for all that you and House of Ruth do. It's a great organization, and we're so honored to have you right here in our own Inland Empire. Don't go away. We will be right back.